I am 28. I will smack a big bitch. What that bitch wanna do? I'll send you right to the Lord.
On June 25th, 2023, 28-year-old Jasity Strong was celebrating her birthday in Kansas City, Missouri. It was supposed to be a milestone marked by joy, laughter, and family. Instead, it turned fatal. What began as a night of celebration ended with bullets flying through the air at an after-hours venue on 57th Street and Prospect Avenue. Jassity, a mother of two, certified nursing assistant and aspiring RN, was shot and killed in a mass shooting that left her family shattered and her children without their mother. In a city plagued by gun violence, her death quickly became another name in the headlines until her mother, Tamika Jenkins, decided to fight for more. Surveillance footage, eyewitness reports, and unanswered 911 calls leave behind a trail of questions. Who fired the fatal shots? Why were there no arrests? Was this a targeted act or reckless chaos? And how did law enforcement respond to the aftermath?
Yes, this is a family that is still in shock. Her mother spoke with her at midnight on her birthday, and Jass, as her family calls her, told her she was going to be coming to her house, but she never made it. Strong was one of three people killed when gunfire broke out early on Sunday. She had just turned 28 years old at midnight. She was out celebrating with her friends. She had so much to be happy about, a career as a makeup artist, and she had recently gotten her certification as a CNA, but she was most proud, her family says, of being the mother of two children.
This is not just a story of a victim. This is the story of a woman with ambition, a mother with dreams, and a system that failed to protect her. While her family demands justice and pushes for legislative change, those responsible remain unidentified. As we unravel Jassity's story, from her personal life and professional ambitions to the circumstances of her death and the ongoing silence surrounding the case, we ask, how many more victims will there be before meaningful change takes place? This episode isn't just about what happened. It's about what hasn't happened. Accountability, transparency, and justice. Stay with us as we break down everything, step by step, uncovering the facts the headlines left behind. If you enjoy real crime stories that uncover the truth, don't forget to subscribe. Your support helps us share real cases, spread awareness, and give a voice to those who can't speak for themselves. Before we begin, let us know in the comments, where are you watching from? And what are your thoughts as the story unfolds? Welcome to True Crime Tales, where we reveal the crimes that shock communities and the secrets hidden behind closed doors. These are real people, real events, real consequences. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Now, let's begin. Jasity Strong, also known as Jass, was a 28-year-old woman born on June 25, 1995. She lived in Kansas City, Missouri, and worked as a certified nursing assistant. At the time of her death, she was actively pursuing her goal of becoming a registered nurse. Her commitment to the healthcare profession was influenced by her personal experiences, particularly those involving the care of older relatives, which motivated her to seek a formal nursing license. Jassity was a self-taught makeup artist who gained recognition for her craft. She competed in Kansas City's People's Choice competition and reached the semi-finalist stage. On social media, she frequently posted videos and pictures of her work, accumulating a local following. She was described by many who knew her as a social and energetic woman who loved celebrating birthdays, especially her own. She had two children, Kirsten, a 6-year-old daughter, and Junior, her 1-year-old son. According to family accounts, Jassity was devoted to her children. She often shared milestones, family outings, and portraits of them dressed and styled with great attention to detail. Her mother, Tamika Jenkins, said Jassity's primary motivation was to provide her kids with a better future. In the wake of her death, friends and community members expressed that Jassity was more than another homicide statistic. However, like many victims of inner-city gun violence, her case received only brief attention from mainstream media outlets. How do we humanize victims in media coverage beyond their death statistics? On June 25, 2023, Jasity Strong turned 28 years old. That evening, she began celebrating her birthday with close friends. The festivities extended into the late night and early morning hours at an after-hours venue located near 57th Street and Prospect Avenue in Kansas City, Missouri. Earlier that night, around midnight, she FaceTimed her mother to share a celebratory toast. This call would be the last confirmed communication between Jassity and her family. According to her mother, she appeared joyful, vibrant, and ready to celebrate the occasion with her circle of friends. The venue where the celebration occurred was described as an underground party location. Reports suggest it lacked official permits and did not meet standard safety protocols. Security was minimal or non-existent. Witnesses later stated that the party was crowded, the environment was high energy, and there were no visible security checks at the entrance. The lack of regulation at this venue would later become a point of concern in public discussions following the incident. Multiple community members expressed concern over the venue's operation. It was reportedly not the first time that large, unregulated gatherings had occurred in that space. However, there was no official record indicating previous enforcement actions or city oversight on the property. Should underground venues be monitored more closely by law enforcement? At some point during or after the peak of the birthday celebration, gunshots were fired inside or near the venue. Multiple rounds rang out, causing panic and confusion. Witness accounts describe a scene of sudden chaos. People running in every direction, diving for cover, and attempting to exit the building. Emergency services were not immediately present. Some witnesses reported delays in medical response and law enforcement arrival. Others noted the absence of on-site security personnel who could have intervened or mitigated the danger. Several individuals were reportedly injured in the gunfire. Jasity Strong was one of the individuals struck by bullets. Her injuries proved fatal, and she was later pronounced dead. Initial reports from Kansas City police did not specify the total number of victims or the nature of other injuries sustained at the venue. The number of shooters involved in the incident remains unknown. Some witnesses claimed that more than one person may have discharged a firearm, while others said they could not clearly identify who was responsible. As of the most recent updates, no suspect had been arrested or charged in connection with the shooting. Police issued a public statement requesting information and tips from those who were present at the event. Despite surveillance footage and eyewitness testimony, no definitive leads have been shared with the public. The motive behind the shooting is unclear. Authorities have not publicly confirmed whether the attack was targeted or random. This lack of clarity has led to increasing frustration among the victim's family and the community. Jassity's mother, Tamika, has expressed that she receives limited updates on the case. Months after the shooting, there have been no named persons of interest and no arrests made. The case joins a growing list of unsolved homicides in Kansas City. According to city crime statistics, the rate of firearm-related homicides continues to rise, with many cases remaining unresolved due to lack of evidence, witness fear, or community mistrust in law enforcement. Why is it so difficult to prosecute shooters in crowded public spaces? When gunfire erupted at the after-hours venue on 57th Street and Prospect Avenue in the early hours of June 25, 2023, multiple 911 calls were placed by witnesses reporting chaos, injuries, and fatalities. However, several individuals at the scene later reported a significant delay in the arrival of emergency responders. Eyewitnesses claimed that victims were left unattended for critical minutes, during which bystanders attempted to help the injured using makeshift methods. Torn clothing for tourniquets and private vehicles used for transport. According to city incident logs, the first formal police report was filed over 20 minutes after the first call came in. EMS units followed shortly after, but community members questioned whether response time would have been faster in another part of the city. Adding to public concern is the unclear operational status of the venue where the shooting occurred. Several attendees and neighborhood residents stated that the venue had operated multiple times before as an unauthorized party spot. There is no clear public record confirming whether the building was permitted for such use or had been previously flagged for code violations. This gap in transparency has fueled speculation about local enforcement patterns and oversight of high-risk areas. Following the incident, the Kansas City Police Department, KCPD, issued a brief statement acknowledging the shooting, identifying Jasity Strong as one of the deceased, and asking for public assistance in gathering information. No suspects were named. No arrests were made in the days, weeks, or months after shooting. Updates from KCPD remain minimal, citing an ongoing investigation. This incident adds to Kansas City's growing list of unsolved homicides. As of mid-2024, the city continues to experience one of the highest per capita murder rates in the United States. Data from local watchdog groups show that the clearance rate, cases solved with arrests or convictions, is disproportionately lower for black female victims. No press conference was held to address community concerns. No surveillance footage was publicly released. No detailed timeline of the investigation was made available. Public frustration intensified as similar incidents occurred in the same area over the following months, with equally limited law enforcement response. Is law enforcement prioritizing the safety of black women in high-crime areas, or are their cases deprioritized when no immediate suspect is identified? Jasity Strong's mother, Tamika Jenkins, recalls her last moment with her daughter vividly. At exactly midnight on June 25th, they FaceTimed each other, celebrating Jassity's 28th birthday. Tamika described her daughter as happy and glowing as she prepared to go out. Hours later, Tamika was awoken by a phone call no parent wants to receive. Jassity had been shot and killed. The emotional and psychological toll on Tamika has been severe. Already battling lupus, a chronic autoimmune disease, Tamika found her physical health rapidly deteriorating in the aftermath of her daughter's death. She also began showing signs of clinical depression and PTSD, requiring medical and therapeutic intervention. She stated in an interview that she experiences recurring nightmares and panic attacks triggered by loud noises or sirens. The family was immediately faced with the challenge of caring for Jassity's two children, 6-year-old Kirsten and 1-year-old Junior. As per Jassity's known wishes, guardianship was split. Kirsten remained with Tamika, while Junior was placed in the custody of his biological father. This arrangement was formalized within weeks, but not without emotional strain. In the days following Jassity's death, her family organized vigils and memorial events throughout Kansas City. They used these moments not just to mourn, but to amplify calls for justice and legislative change. One such initiative was the formation of a grassroots campaign for Jassity's Law, which would restrict firearms at unlicensed public gatherings. The family also launched a GoFundMe campaign to support the long-term needs of Kirsten and Junior. The fundraiser covered counseling services, education funds, and basic living expenses. Community donations poured in, but the emotional void remains unresolved. Despite their consistent outreach, the family received limited updates from investigators. This lack of communication only deepened their frustration, prompting them to speak directly to media outlets, hoping the exposure might force movement in the case. How do families navigate grief and caregiving responsibilities when the justice system offers no closure or support? Jassity's killing sparked a wave of shock, but not surprise, across Kansas City. In 2023, the city experienced an unprecedented surge in gun violence, with over 180 homicides recorded that year alone. The intersection of 57th Street and Prospect Avenue, where Jassity was killed, had already been the site of multiple shootings in the past 2 years. While the community mourned her loss, they also expressed deep frustration. Many residents stated that the danger in that area had been reported numerous times to city officials with no response. Some said they had filed complaints about the illegal party venue months earlier. Nothing changed. Local leaders, including city council members and state representatives, issued official statements offering condolences and decrying the violence. However, residents noted that no legislation followed those remarks. No emergency city council meetings were called. No task force was created to investigate unregulated venues. Within weeks, public attention faded. In response, several community activists organized marches and protests demanding both police accountability and legislative action. Some held signs reading, "Who protects black women?" and "Silence is violence." Still, media coverage remained localized, and national attention never reached the case. Grassroots groups have continued to raise awareness. They've called for increased patrols in high-violence zones, mandatory closure of illegal venues, and clearer protocols for police responsiveness. Yet, to date, there has been minimal movement on any of these fronts. Advocates question why political figures, who showed up for photo ops during the vigil, did not return with policy reform or tangible commitments. A few lawmakers cited ongoing reviews or lack of jurisdiction when pressed for answers. When politicians issue condolences but take no action, what does that signal to communities impacted by violence? In the aftermath of the June 25, 2023, shooting that claimed the life of 28-year-old Jasity Strong during her birthday celebration, a new form of advocacy began to take root. Jassity's mother, Tamika Jenkins, refusing to let her daughter's death become just another unsolved homicide statistic in Kansas City, began pushing for a legislative response, what would come to be known as Jassity's Law. This law, still in a conceptual and grassroots stage, aims to prevent firearms at public and unlicensed gatherings, events like the one where Jassity was fatally shot. These environments, often held in makeshift venues without proper oversight or security, have become hotspots for violent outbreaks. Jassity's Law seeks to close that gap by holding both attendees and organizers accountable when firearms are brought into these spaces. Tamika Jenkins has argued that too many people have died because of the lack of regulation around such events, and her daughter's death has become the catalyst for change. Tamika has begun meeting with local officials, attending city council sessions, and presenting her case in the form of first-hand testimony. Her primary goal is bipartisan support, not just as a symbolic gesture, but as a legislative necessity in a politically divided environment. She has stated that this isn't about party lines or ideology. It's about public safety, particularly in urban communities where illegal firearms and reckless usage are an ongoing concern. The proposed bill's core components include prohibiting possession of firearms at non-licensed social venues and gatherings, imposing fines or penalties on event hosts who fail to enforce this rule, establishing a local database of public incident reports for recurring high-risk venues, increasing patrol and oversight by law enforcement during known unregulated events. At the grassroots level, community petitions have been initiated by friends, local residents, and advocacy groups. Signatures are being collected both online and at in-person community events. A social media campaign using the hashtag Jassity's Law has aimed to gain traction and draw broader attention to the issue. Volunteers and local organizers continue to distribute flyers in Canvas neighborhoods, urging the public to support the initiative and call their representatives. Still, Tamika and her supporters have acknowledged the uphill battle they face. Lawmakers are slow to act. Gun rights lobbyists in Missouri remain strong and influential, often pushing back on anything perceived to restrict access, even in high-risk zones. Additionally, the issue is complicated by the fact that the party responsible for Jassity's death has not yet been caught. Critics argue that without a solved case or clearer motive, legislation like this might lose momentum. Nonetheless, Tamika has maintained that whether or not an arrest is made, her daughter's death revealed a loophole in public safety that must be addressed through policy. Can a local tragedy like this lead to meaningful legislative change? When Jasity Strong was killed, the story initially captured the attention of Kansas City media outlets. Local news ran features on the tragic birthday shooting, including short interviews with family members and footage of memorial gatherings. However, like many other similar cases, media attention faded within weeks. National outlets never picked up the story, and social media buzz was brief. The lack of suspects or major updates meant that news cycles moved on quickly to the next headline. One of the biggest frustrations voiced by Tamika and Jassity's family has been the short-lived nature of the coverage. Despite ongoing trauma, unanswered questions, and their efforts to push forward a legislative solution, the broader public remains unaware or indifferent. Even as they attend rallies or meetings and continue to call out systemic failures, they do so without the backing of national media pressure that might help apply leverage to local law enforcement or lawmakers. Family members and advocates have attempted to keep the case in public view through consistent social media posting, community events, and podcast interviews. But without a celebrity connection, high-profile investigation, or viral moment, the case has struggled to remain in public discourse. This pattern is not new. Numerous cases involving Black women, particularly in inner-city environments, receive brief attention and are then forgotten. Public interest seems to hinge on how sensational or unusual a case appears. In contrast, Jassity's case, a mother killed in a mass shooting at a birthday celebration, while tragic, was quickly categorized as another episode in a long series of urban violence stories. Tamika Jenkins has publicly criticized this tendency, pointing out the disparity in attention between victims from marginalized communities and those from more affluent backgrounds. She argues that if Jassity had lived in a different zip code, the story might have gained traction. She continues to send emails, reach out to journalists, and participate in media interviews to maintain visibility. To date, the only continuing spotlight comes from Kansas City community advocates, Black-run local media, and grassroots organizations fighting gun violence. Their support remains the only barrier between Jassity's story and complete public forgetfulness. Why do some cases gain national traction while others are forgotten? As of June 2024, the murder case of Jasity Strong remains unsolved. Despite multiple public appeals, social media outreach, and local media coverage, no arrests have been made. No suspect have been formally named. No person of interest has been publicly identified by law enforcement. 1 year after the 28-year-old mother was gunned down during her birthday celebration, her family still has no answers. The incident occurred in the early hours of June 25, 2023, at an after-hours venue located at 57th Street and Prospect Avenue in Kansas City, Missouri. Reports confirm a mass shooting broke out during the birthday party, where Jassity was present with friends and acquaintances. While several individuals sustained injuries, Jasity Strong was among the few who died on scene. The chaos that unfolded made it difficult for investigators to identify a clear shooter or motive, despite repeated outreach from Jassity's family. Including her mother, Tamika Jenkins, police have provided minimal information about the investigation's progress. According to Tamika, most of the information she receives comes from secondhand sources or media updates, not from official channels. No timeline for justice has been communicated. No press conference has been held regarding new leads or evidence. The investigation appears to have stalled. The Kansas City Police Department has acknowledged ongoing challenges with solving violent crimes in areas like Prospect Avenue, citing a lack of cooperation from witnesses and insufficient surveillance in unlicensed venues. However, community members argue that these justifications are not enough. They point out that a lack of arrests after 1 year highlights deeper issues of neglect, resourcing failures, and a disregard for justice in Black communities. The absence of a clear motive also remains a point of concern. Investigators have not released any statements suggesting whether the shooting was targeted, random, or connected to a personal dispute. This silence has fueled public speculation, confusion, and mistrust. Community leaders and advocates have labeled the silence unacceptable. They have called for increased transparency, accountability, and urgency. Several community-led marches and vigils have demanded updates and insisted that unsolved homicides like Jassity's should not fade from public view. In the absence of law enforcement progress, community members are beginning to explore the possibility of involving independent investigators. Private detectives, civil rights attorneys, and nonprofit crime-solving initiatives are being considered to apply additional pressure and possibly uncover leads that official channels have missed or overlooked. Should unsolved homicides be revisited by independent investigators? Jasity Strong's life was defined by ambition, family, and community. She was a certified nursing assistant working toward her goal of becoming a registered nurse. She was also a self-taught makeup artist recognized in her community. Above all, she was a mother of 2 young children, Kirsten, age 6, and Junior, age 1, whom she adored and supported. Her violent death did more than end a promising life. It left a permanent void in her family. Her children will grow up without their mother. Her mother, Tamika, now lives with chronic illness, depression, and the weight of seeking justice in a system that has so far failed them. Her extended family and community continue to ask how someone could be shot and killed at a crowded party with no one held responsible. In the wake of her death, her family has worked to turn tragedy into advocacy. Tamika Jenkins is pushing for Jassity's law, which will prohibit firearms at unlicensed public gatherings. She hopes it will prevent similar incidents from occurring in Kansas City and beyond. The proposed law has garnered some community support, but so far, no legislative action has been taken. The lack of accountability in Jassity's case points to broader systemic failures. Failures in public safety, law enforcement responsiveness, and justice system prioritization. Community leaders argue that victims from marginalized communities, particularly Black women, often receive slower investigations and less media attention than other demographics. The story of Jasity Strong remains unfinished. Until suspects are arrested, a motive is confirmed, and a trial is held, this case continues to be marked by silence and stagnation. No one has been held accountable. No one has answered for the life that was taken. And no institutional safeguards have been introduced to ensure such violence doesn't happen again. The public is left to question whether enough is being done to protect lives like Jassity's. Her death did not occur in isolation. It occurred within the context of rising gun violence, weak enforcement of venue regulations, and inconsistent attention to crimes affecting young Black women. As of today, Jassity's family remains locked in a cycle of unanswered questions and unresolved grief. They continue to fight, not just for their daughter, but for a future where others won't suffer the same fate. They ask for justice. They ask for visibility. And they ask for anyone, to be held accountable. This case raises critical questions. Who protects women like Jassity in high-risk communities? What would real justice look like in this case? And how long must families wait before the system takes action? These are not questions with easy answers, but they are questions that must be asked. And until they are answered, the fight for justice in the case of Jasity Strong continues. If you found this story as gripping and heartbreaking as we did, don't forget to like this video and share it with others. And if you want to hear more true crime stories that uncover the mysteries behind these tragic events, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell. You won't want to miss our latest stories, updates, and discussions. Thank you for joining us on this journey to seek justice and explore the truth. Together, we can make a difference. Until next time, stay safe and stay aware.